I want to welcome you to No Nonsense Nonprofits. Hi, my name is Sandy Ray. I'm the founder of Sandra E. Ray CPA, where we alleviate financial headaches so that you can create a bigger impact. Today, I want to talk to you about the importance of donor acknowledgement letters and receipts. Right now, we're hot and heavy into that, getting those donor acknowledgement year-end tax receipts out. So this is a great time to talk about those. So, what is a donor acknowledgement letter? It is simply a communication between your organization and your donors acknowledging the receipt of a gift or donation. The main purpose of the letter is to, number one, thank the donor for their contribution, acknowledging the receipt of the gift. And I recommend that you include in the letter that you show how it supports the impact that you're making in your community. Obviously, we're sending these letters out because sometimes they're required by the IRS, but really it's to build a relationship with donors. We want to show them that appreciation that we have for them for supporting our mission and making a bigger impact in our communities. We're using this to build long-term relationships. So you can personalize donor letters. Technology is so helpful with this. Various different levels, you could put their name in an email. At higher levels, it may be a handwritten thank you letter, or it may be a letter with a signature of a few, maybe board members, if it's a significant donation. So you can personalize these letters to help you build these long-term relationships with your donors. And then again, you can use this communication to express the impact and explain how their money is being spent or their donation is being used to impact the community. What were you able to accomplish with that money? So, what types of donations require acknowledgement? The answer, all of them. But there are different types of donations. The first, easiest, most common is what we call cash donations. Now, those are actually checks, credit card gifts via credit cards. They can be cash, they can be gift cards, things that can very easily be turned into cash. Those kinds of cash donations are the most common, and you simply need to acknowledge the gift amount and the method that you received it in the acknowledgement letter. Now, kind of a subcategory of cash donations are our online donations. Generally, those are credit card donations that are made through our own website or a fundraising platform. Generally, we're just going to be sending an email or a text that says, thank you for the donation. It's going to be automated. And those are just going to happen as soon as the donation is processed. So you want that really quick response for those donations. Now, another type of donation is in-kind donation. These are donations of goods or services that aren't money or something that's convertible to cash very quickly. So a business might donate event supplies or equipment. Someone may bring food if you're a food bank. Those are the kinds of things that we get that are in-kind contributions. Amazon has a program with that you could do a wish list, and a donor could go on to your wish list, purchase things, and have things shipped to you. Those are in-kind donations. Now, it's the donor's responsibility to put a value on these gifts. So we don't want to, in our acknowledgement letter, put a value. We're only going to describe in the letter what we received. And I want to talk to you about in-kind donations of $5,000 or more. We're talking about those cars and the big in-kind donations like cars and boats and those kinds of things, or maybe it's kitchen equipment or whatever. Anything of $5,000 or more requires an appraisal, and the non-for-profit organization must sign the Form 8283 for receipt of the donation for the taxpayer to be able to deduct that on their tax return. There's more steps that are going to be involved. You have to have received an appraisal. You have to sign the form 8283 to show receipt. And then finally, you have to track that item for the next 3 years. Because if you as an organization sell that item, you have to complete form 8282 and you have to provide the value that it was sold for. This is a way for the IRS to be tracking if these larger donations were overvalued or not. There's some penalties that go along with not completing the form 8282 if you have sold a donated item within 3 years. Other types of donations, stock donations, very common. Donors can choose to donate stock to avoid capital gains tax. They get the fair market value of the stock the day they donated it, and then there's no capital gains for them. For a stock gift, you should acknowledge the number of shares and the stock name, but not its fair market value. Now, you're going to know the fair market value if it's traded publicly, and that's going to be how you're going to value it for your books, but you are not going to provide that in the acknowledgement letter. Very similar to stocks is cryptocurrency donations. Cryptocurrency donations also come with tax advantages for the donor. And what we want to do if you're accepting these cryptocurrency donations is include the cryptocurrency type and amount, and if applicable, the donation's cash equivalent. So this is where you are going to be giving that if you know what that is. It's really the only time that you really give a value other than a cash donation, because it is a hybrid of cash and investments. And then I want to talk about donations for planned giving or legacy donations. These are our donations from people's estates via their will or a trust. These are generally larger donations, and we want to express our heartfelt gratitude towards the donor and the donor's family for that donation, and really let them know what the long-term impact of that donation is. Again, these are generally larger one-time gifts, and we're talking about an acknowledgement that's going to be very personalized to them. So we've covered the types of gifts and what kind of acknowledgement letters that you need to send, but let's talk about the timing of those letters. Kind of broken it down into 3 things. Receipt of the donation. This is just to say, hey, we received your donation. That's that email that goes out for the online donation, but it should be sent out immediately. It could be a text, it could be an email, it could be an automatically generated letter. It's up to you, but we just want to say, we received this XYZ for this amount of money. And then there's an acknowledgement letter. Now, this letter probably should be sent pretty quickly, within a week or so of the receipt of the donation. And the timing of that is up to your organization. But this is the letter that says, thank you. We've received this, we have all the IRS language in there, which we'll go over a little bit later. And this is the type of impact that you are making in our community by providing this donation. And these letters can be very personalized. Depending on the giving level, they can be very simple or templated. The higher giving levels, you may want to have handwritten signatures or handwritten notes, or maybe signed by handwritten by a couple of board members. That's up to you how you want to do that. But this is the more personalized acknowledgement letter to build that relationship with the donor. And then lastly, we have the year-end tax letters. Now, this is very handy to reflect the total giving for the year. So if you've got those monthly donors that are giving you money every month, this is a great way to summarize that information for them. Like I said, these should be sent out in January, so they have that information if they need it for their tax deduction. And donors have to have these letters in hand before they file their tax return. So you don't want to be the charity that makes them file an extension because they don't have their letter. So those should, like I said, really plan on getting those out in January. They are not required, but they really do simplify the tax reporting for your donors. And I say they're not required if you've already sent out the acknowledgement letter. But this year-end tax letter makes things so easy for your donor and helps them with their taxes and helps you build that relationship with that donor. Now, like we were talking about a little bit earlier, I want to talk about the type of responses based on giving levels. You know, those small online donations, we can send an email or a text acknowledging the gift and saying thank you. A recurring monthly donation, you probably want to send a receipt by email every time that you receive a donation, and definitely that year-end tax letter that shows the total of the donation that they've given for the calendar year. And then again, larger, usually one-time donations, you want to give them a receipt, you want to send them that acknowledgement letter, and you want to send that year-end tax letter. You want to make yourself available to sign their forms 82, 83, and you need to track those items for 3 years. Now, the requirements for the donor receipts, the acknowledgement letter, whichever communication you're going to put this in. First of all, any tax deductible donation made to a charity has to be acknowledged by the charity if the donation or the cumulative donations are $250 or more. So this is a requirement that you have to do this for the taxpayers, and it's required by the IRS. What has to be in there is your organization name, the donor name, the donation date, a description of the donation, and any quid pro quo language. You might want to say no goods or services were received for this gift, or you might want to actually list the value of the goods or services that the donor received in exchange for their gift. For example, if you have a gala and it's a $500 a plate dinner, the dinner actually only costs you $75 per plate or $100 per plate. Let's say $100 because 75 gets us into these minutes and stuff. $100, you have to acknowledge that $100 that they received a $100 gift. So their tax deductible portion of that gift is only $400. And so they have to have the information to calculate that amount. The exception, you don't have to put that goods or services received information in there. You can say no goods or services were received if the item that you provided them was of insubstantial value. And the IRS defined insubstantial value for 2023 as $13.90. So if you made that donation to PBS and they sent you a coffee mug to say thank you, that coffee mug is not going to be in the letter. It'd be insubstantial value. So what happens if you don't send the acknowledgement letters or receipts? Basically, you're destroying your relationship with your donors. Donors feel unappreciated. They're going to have tax issues, and that could lead to your donor attrition. Additionally, if you don't follow the requirements for the 8283 and the 8282 for your donors of donations of 5,000 or more of in-kind contributions, you could be subject to penalties by the IRS. So what are the best practices for donor acknowledgement? Number one, personalize your communications as much as you possibly can. And of course, that's going to vary based on the level of the gift and the technology that you are using. Send receipts promptly, like immediately as possible. Express the impact that this donation is making to your organization, and be consistent. Do it every time. So to kind of summarize, we want to make sure that you're sending out timely, personalized donor acknowledgement letters. and that these are essential tools for creating long-lasting relationships with your donors and to keep your organization in compliance with the IRS regulations. Whether your donation comes in cash, in kind, or cryptocurrency, the way you acknowledge donations makes all the difference in the world. Thanking your donors shows them the impact that you're creating with their contribution. It gets them invested in your organization, and it allows you to follow best practices for your receipts, meet your legal requirements, and build trust and loyalty within your donor base. I hope this was helpful, and I want to thank you for joining me today. If you have any questions on this or other topics, please put them in the comment section below. And as always, we appreciate your likes. And remember, creating a bigger impact starts with stopping the nonsense. If you are dealing with nonsense in your nonprofit organization, we'd love to help you cut through the noise.